Hello, I'm Lucy from Bookshanks, and today I am here to share my thoughts about On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. Hello, welcome or welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please do subscribe. We would love to get to know you and chat all things books. Today I'm here to chat about On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, and I had so been looking forward to the release of this book. It is Angie Thomas's second book, and the first was The Hate You Give, which was absolutely huge a couple of years ago, like totally bonkers huge in the book world, made into a film, which I haven't seen yet and really want to. But basically, I absolutely loved that book. I just thought it was super sparky, super original, and just a really fresh voice that goodness knows we all need in literature at the moment. Anyway, not here to review that book. What am I here for? Right, this one. This is the story of Brianna. She is 16 years old. She lives in Garden Heights in the US, which is sort of a deprived neighborhood. And she really dreams of being a rapper. It is her absolute ambition to raise herself and her family out of their situation through her music. And she has got a pretty big situation going on. She's got all the usual things that teenagers have to deal with in life. You know, she's got exams coming up. She's got, you know, friend troubles and love interests. But she's also got a father who was murdered in a gang dispute a few years earlier. She's got a mother who is a recovered drug addict trying to hold it all together. She's got a sister, an auntie, who is a drug dealer on the estate where she lives, and just the conflict that that brings into their lives, because really actually they are desperate for money and they need, you know, more than what I guess, you know, sort of legitimate means of income, sort of the expected route that you should have your income through. They just need more. When her mother loses her job, they find themselves visiting food banks. You know, her clothes and her shoes, they're falling apart, and she is just utterly desperate to better her situation and her family's situation. And it is just really incredibly believable the way that Angie Thomas deals with these issues, and she does them so empathetically that, you know, you really do just have a broken heart for Brie pretty much from the very off. Of course, the journey to rap stardom has bumps along the way, and all these other conflicts that are going on in Brie's life feed into, you know, whether or not she is able to have that success and, you know, raise herself out of her situation. That's sort of the plot of the novel as it happens, but at the same time, Angie Thomas deals with these really big themes and really important themes, and she does it really, really well. The first of which, you know, is actually a lot about stereotypes. I think it's about how we judge people. So Brie is told really by all the people around her that if she wants to be a rap star, she kind of needs to be a bad girl. She needs to portray the image of what rap stars are really like. At the same time, you know, in her everyday life, people are already looking at her as potentially the bad girl purely because of the colour of her skin. And at school she's targeted by the security guards and by members of staff that actually, you know, would have dealt with a white child. She feels differently than her. So there's all this stuff feeding in about the stereotypes of the way that we react to people who just aren't quite like us, which Angie Thomas does really, really brilliantly. The other thing that she does really brilliantly is talk about the power of language. So Brianna is a rapper, and she puts together these rhymes that deal with her situation and show her situation and her inner conflict about who she is and who she wants to be and who she wants to be portrayed as really, really articulately and wittily as well. But her words, she finds, are taken out of context sometimes. They're not always used in the way that she intends them to be used. And what I really loved in this book was how Angie Thomas tells us about the power of language and how words, you know, can really rile people up, and they can create hope and inspire people, but they can also push people down and push people into violence or to the really extremes of human nature. And I think the appreciation for that in this book is really something special to take in. The last theme that I think Angie Thomas deals with really, really well in this book is a lot more overtly a political one. She's talking about how the American system in particular, although I think there are probably truisms in lots of other places as well, but how actually there is so much institutional racism in the system itself that it is designed to keep people in their place. It makes it hard for people like Brianna and her family to better their lot when the odds are institutionally stacked against them, when literally the laws and the regulations disadvantage people like her. And, you know, if you're not looking for a book that's political, this isn't going to be the one for you. But the way that Thomas deals with it is with this sort of deftness and this wit and this lightness of touch that runs through, but the message underneath it is really powerful and really hard-hitting. This isn't a perfect novel. I mean, what novel is really? But there were a few things that you know, did stop and give me pause. It's slower out of the blocks than The Hate You Give, I think. The sort of first third maybe, I was sort of urging it to, you know, step it up a gear, to get going. And I did feel that at that point, neither the plot nor the characters had, you know, that urgency or that spark about them that I felt in Thomas's previous novel. Similarly, actually, at the start of the novel at least, I didn't feel that Brianna had sort of a real exceptional spark like Star did in The Hate You Give. I was looking for sort of that something that, you know, just set your heart alight in terms of her personality, and I didn't quite get it at the beginning of the book. I had instead sort of a feeling that she was a little bit naive and in a way that I didn't perhaps believe, given that her father was murdered in sort of gang situations, and you know, her aunt was a drug dealer, and yet she seemed naive about sort of certain elements of the rapping that she was doing. I thought, would a child who's lived through this necessarily be that green? I guess I sort of expected her to know a little bit more. But as the book progressed, I did totally buy into her, and I really did enjoy how she grew. She's a really witty character, as well as being warm and thoughtful, and she has these really joyful friendships that just give her this hope, actually, and that just sort of lift her to sort of become more than just herself on her own, I guess, really. She really vibes off her friends, and that was a real strength of the novel that drove it forward for me. The other thing, actually, that I did really love was the shared world stuff with The Hate You Give. So it's set in Garden Heights, where The Hate You Give was set, and there's lots of references, actually, throughout to the things that happened in the previous book. Although, I mean, you could read them completely separately. There's no need to, you know, sort of read one then the other at all. They stand alone. But the sort of, those little shared world elements, those nods to what's gone before in the neighbourhoods were really satisfying, actually. And yeah, really like those. They did build it up too. So that's pretty much my thoughts. If you've read this book already, I'd really love to know yours. I'd love to know whether it's just me who thought Brianna was a little teeny tiny bit naive at the beginning, and whether it was kind of a little bit slow out of the blocks as well, because sometimes it's just the mood you're in, isn't it, actually? And it's nothing to do with the book at all. I'd love to have a chat about whether you think those things are just me or actually a fact, whether you liked it as much as The Hate You Give. If you've read that too, love to know those things. Oh, I'd love to know what you think of the actual raps as well, because I really liked when it was laid out, you know, like it's like poetry, isn't it? And you get this insight into Brianna's mind that only comes out really when she's, you know, rapping. She can't articulate it necessarily, I felt, when you know, she's in conversation. It's much harder for her to do, and then she just comes alive when she writes those raps. And I thought that that was a pretty cool part of the book. So I'd love to know if you agreed with me too, or whether you just didn't buy it whatsoever. Either one. It's always good to hear your comments, so please do talk to me down below. Other than that, pretty much it, I think. No other thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Please do check out bookshanks.com and the app's completely free, and subscribe. Got to do that, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.